Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm here for another book review, and today I'm going to review Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is my first book that I've read by Ishiguro, and I have to say I enjoyed it. I tried this book maybe about a year ago, and I don't know what happened. I got like a chapter in, probably not even, to be honest with you, and I wasn't feeling it. I had been told it was a sci-fi book, which I don't read too much sci-fi, but I don't mind it every now and then. And I guess I just wasn't in the mood for that, and so I wound up not reading it, and it was due at the library, so I had to return it. But I picked it up again last week since I had been meaning to read it, and you know, I don't even see how you could call this sci-fi, to be honest with you. So I think I probably could have read it just fine back then, but that's okay. I read it now, so I can check it off my list. If you can hear my baby, I'm sorry. He's supposed to be sleeping, and he's kind of just like talking to himself and shouting every now and then, so sorry about that if you can hear it. And now there's a plane going over. Anyway, Never Let Me Go, it's about these three children, Kathy, Ruth, and Tommy, and kind of their experience at basically a boarding school growing up in Kathy's looking back on her life and kind of telling the most important parts from her childhood, and basically they are being raised to be organ donors. They're clones, and people are raising them. They're kind of like this big experimental school to give them like a nice childhood, unlike a lot of the other clones, so that they can grow up and first care for the other organ donors, and then when they're done doing that, they will donate their own organs until they complete, which means, you know, go on to the next life. What I liked about this book, and I did really like it, I do recommend it, I really liked the character of Kathy, who's the main character. She's the narrator. You get the story through her eyes. I liked the way that she could like look back on her life, and it felt like if I were to just have like a big journal of, you know, my past experiences, my childhood stories, it felt very similar to that. It was just like getting a glimpse into what seemed to be like a very average girl's life, but they were just stories about her relationships, her relationship with her friend Ruth, and how they would fight sometimes and things like that. So I liked that it was pretty relatable, and at first it was like, you know, I could write a book. I could totally write this. But I liked the fact that she could look back on it through like this mature, very adult lens of being like, well, that's how I'm remembering it, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I remember, and looking back, maybe I shouldn't have done this, but you know, I did, and this is what happened. I just thought that was a great way to look back at it. In their school, they are taught to do a lot of art or creative things, and it just kind of made me think like they're looked down upon because they're clones, so they're having to do all of this artwork. Well, why is that what makes a human a human? And I thought that was like one of the bigger questions that was kind of like toyed around with a little bit in it. You know, what is it that makes a human a person? You know, somebody worth saving versus like an organ donor who's basically raised for the slaughter. Is it art? Is it, you know, visual arts or writing, or is it like human emotion? Like there's one scene where one of the non-clone humans walks in on her as a child singing this song and like clutching a pillow to her chest. She's thinking it's a baby, but you know, almost like you would a lover, and the non-clone human starts crying at seeing that because it was such like a human emotion. And I think it was easy for these people to like kind of turn off in their heads, you know, well, they're clones, so they're not real humans. And it was just kind of this interesting idea of, well, what makes a human being, instead of just somebody, you know, raised for a specific purpose. We don't care about their feelings like a lot of the other schools. They weren't even being raised in a happy environment like everybody, all the other clones. They envy this girl for being raised at this great boarding school where she could have like a happy childhood, a normal childhood. In this book, they also just kind of go along with the system a lot, which I was kind of confused about, but I suppose I understand it. I mean, you're raised to believe one thing your entire life, and they go along with it. Like there's like a little bit of talk about, can you get out of it? Not even can you get out of it, but can you postpone it for a couple of years, like the inevitable death? Can you postpone it instead of, only living to be 30, which is actually, fairly late for some of these people. And so they like push it off a couple of years if they're in love. So there's some talk about that, but for the most part, you don't see anybody really like rebelling against the system or anything like that. A couple of the non-clone humans do make an attempt at it, but I don't know. I guess when you're just raised in something, maybe you don't question it, but I thought it was a little bit confusing that nobody really questioned the system. Like the most they thought was, oh well, can we get an exception? Like, can we ask for an exception? And not even a good one at that. Instead of fighting for it or trying to run away or anything like that, they just went with the system. And I think she was talking about like, well, this is the way that it's meant to be. We're meant to be in this situation. I just found that a little bit confusing and hard to wrap my brain around, because I feel like if I were in that situation, I'd be doing anything I could to get out of it. Another thing that I liked was that because they didn't have family at all, they basically were taught to take care of each other like they were family. And that made a lot of sense to me, considering they were going to grow up to take care of each other before they became donors. Like one person would be assigned to a couple of other people to just kind of be with them and kind of keep their spirits up. And I thought it said something about relationships and how we need people around us. You can't just live this secluded life. And they found that if people had a good carer, their survival rates and all of that would go up. I definitely give this book 2 thumbs up. I really, really liked it. The writing is great. I think the characters are pretty well done, fairly believable. Some of them are a little drastic. There's no real big surprises coming for you if you read this necessarily. I wouldn't say this is like the most exciting thing that I've ever read, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been one of my favorite books that I've read for quite a while. So if you like this kind of thing, give it a shot. Go get this book. Check it out at the library, something like that. Never let me go. And hopefully I can read some more by this author, because I did really enjoy the writing. So I think that I might be doing a couple more books like this in the future. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Hopefully I'll be doing a couple of more reviews soon. And yeah, just some other fun videos, hopefully. So thanks for watching.